Can I have them now? They're all mine?
They're all yours.
Okay, thank you. Well, it's nice to be back at Shift with all you fringe people. I kind of enjoy that. I never knew exactly what Shift stood for, so now that I know that it's fringe folks, I feel right at home. I got in, someone asked me a while ago how I got involved in UFOs and what was the interest, and I had to, my mind kind of jumped back real fast. I was standing on the Great Wall of China. Anybody had the urge just to go roam in China and so forth? I was in China wondering what was on down the road, followed the wall for a while, wound up going west to Xi'an and out western China. And as you keep searching for things in life, your questions get bigger. You go out there like to solve a few things like, who am I, how do I fit into the scheme of all this, and then you find out that every time you cross a border, somebody's got a whole new set of answers, knows everything about it, and thinks that they have all the answers. So you cross another border and almost have to start all over again. So there was the journey out through China into Tibet and down to Japan and over into Egypt and so forth. And after running through a few countries, I had heard that there was a gentleman in Switzerland who apparently was having contacts and conversations, if you will, with someone from another planet. And I thought, oh, here's some good stuff. Let's go check that one out. So I saw the pictures, these beautiful, clear daytime pictures of these craft that were supposed to be from another planet. And it occurred to me, if someone was really visiting us from another planet and they were human and we could speak to them, imagine what we could learn from these guys. So I set off to go to Switzerland. Got there, and there was a farmer that lived there named Edward Albert Meier. Most people called him Billy. Turns out he got the nickname Billy because he likes, like a lot of people in Europe, they like to watch our Western movies. And he was very fond of Billy the Kid and used to carry a gun with him and kind of saw himself as a cowboy type. So he got the nickname Billy, and people started calling him Billy. Most of all the people who know him, though, call him Eddie because his real name is Edward. So I got to this little small location up in Switzerland called Schmidruti, which is about 45 minutes outside of Zurich. And I'm looking for this guy's place. It's not on the map anywhere. And I stumble into a little post office. And the postal guy says, well, you found it. This is the Schmidruti post office. And I says, well, where's the home of Mr. Meier? And he says, oh, he lives behind the post office in Hinter Schmidruti. So I've been looking on the map for this Hinter Schmidruti, and it wasn't there. And it turns out he lives right behind the post office. So I got on down the road. Make a long story short, I went looking for him at the farm. And turns out he'd become kind of a recluse, didn't want to talk to anybody. He'd had contacts for several years. The European press had just, done nothing but almost ruined his life through ridicule and drawing attention to him and calling him names and so forth. And so he'd had a very difficult time for a while, and it kind of closed himself off to the outside world. He had pulled about 15 people around him to kind of help him with his information. They'd been drawn to come to live with him. So they were all there, and I had a little chat with them, and they were all very angry and upset. How dare I come to the farmhouse, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, I wrote you a letter. And he says, what is your name? I said, my name is Winters, Randolph Winters. Oh, we've been waiting for you. We have some things to talk to you about. He says, okay, let's talk. Turns out that they were interested in me and wanted me to know if I could stay for a while, which I did. And I stayed there for 3 weeks. And I painted the barn. I went out and worked with the cows and did fencing and had an accident on a tractor where the tractor fell over. We had great fun as the tractor tumbled down the hill and missed us and flew over my hills. Had some exciting times for 3 weeks. I found out we had a secret underground pyramid they had built underneath the building over there, a very large full-frame copper pyramid that you could go down into the chamber, crawl up inside of, and sit down on the thing. And I tell you, you go off planet right there. This thing has an accelerator on top of it that sends your mind off into different places. When I was young, my mother taught me a little bit how the mind works and how you get outside of your body anyway, so I did my usual thing that I do. But inside that pyramid, which had been built for Billy by these extraterrestrials, they told him how to build it, it really accelerates your meditation and your thoughts and your individual spiritual powers. So there's a lot of very unusual things going on there. But I didn't get to speak to Billy. He was walking around behind bushes and behind trees, kind of looking at me and watching me, but wouldn't come over and talk to me. So I was told, just leave him alone. When he's ready to talk to you, he will. He doesn't talk to visitors anymore. This was in '86. The last visitor he'd talked to was like in '84. He didn't he really wanted to be left alone, so I left him alone. I stayed there the whole 3 weeks, went back home to Los Angeles, had to go back to work. Got home a week later, the phone rang. It was the farm back in Switzerland. Billy likes you. It's okay to come back. that great, like I just, I got to run right back on Monday or something. So I had to wait a few months, and then I got more and more intrigued. They kept calling me, and so forth. And while I was there, they had given me this stack of notes to read. It turns out the pictures that I had seen, which I'll show you some of them in a few moments, these beautiful, clear pictures of these craft from another world, that was just kind of the end of the situation. As it turns out, Billy was brought to this planet. His spirit was put into the other side, the ring around the planet on purpose. He'd come here thousands of years ago, they said. They pull him into life occasionally. They understand how the other side works and how to pull spirits into body when they want to. Later on, I'll explain that a little bit to you if we have time or if that's something you're interested in. And it turns out that Billy's meetings or contacts had actually started when he was about 5 years old. He started getting these telepathic things and then visions. The voices got stronger and stronger. And when he was 7, the voice told him to walk out into the forest where he lives, the countryside in Switzerland, that someone was coming to meet him. He went out into the countryside to the designated area where he was supposed to go. And he says a pear-shaped object, not a round disc or a wedge or anything like that. It looked like a big pear. Remember, this is a 7-year-old boy reporting what he's seen. To him, it looked like small at the top and came down and came out at the bottom like a pear shape. It was chrome, very bright. Couldn't look at it. It was too bright. And it didn't set on the ground. It floated off the ground. And as he was looking at it, suddenly an elderly-looking gentleman with white hair came walking towards him. He didn't even see how the fellow got out of the craft. Came walking towards him, took his hand and led him back to the ship. Didn't say a word. Went inside of this ship. He was set down into some sort of small chair. There was a device spinning around his head. Still, the man had not said anything. And the device, as it started spinning, he said, then everything came clear. As he was sitting in there, suddenly all of his former lives came to him. Who he was, where he had come from, this other planet where he had come from, came back to him. They were restoring all of his memories from the previous lives that they had worked with him. They were getting him back up to speed so he could make a decision if he wanted to be involved with them again during this lifetime. He says within a few moments, all of the memories came back, and then they open up something very important, which some of you may be working with. You may be aware that there is a language that spirit can communicate with. It's not a spoken language. It is a language of symbols. The Hindus call it the sacred symbols, or combinations thereof. These are images that you portray in your mind's eye during meditation that open up doorways for you into other areas of thought. It also allows you to make connections with older life forms, your higher self, gets into your Akashic or etheric records so you can find out things about yourself and other people. But this is a language that exists in everybody. It's kind of like part of your operating system, but you've never used it. You don't know the files on your hard drive, so you never bother to go looking for it. Well, if they open that up, like they did young Eddie inside the craft that day, and you have full faculty of that language, imagine the things you could go exploring tonight after this meeting if you understood that language. You'd be very excited to get into a meditative state and use your new language to communicate suddenly with other life forms, people on other worlds. You can even communicate with people on the other side if they choose to answer back. So you can do a lot of things and find out a lot of information. And most important,